Today we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Rise of the Beast and the biggest reasons why you should go out and see this movie. Like almost all of these Transformers movies, the story revolves around a MacGuffin that the good and bad Transformers are racing to get. This time, it is the Trans Warp Key, which can open portals through space and time. The Autobots want it because it's a way for them to get back to Cybertron, and the Terracons want it also so it can transport Unicron, a being powerful enough to devour planets. This movie also introduces the Maximals, Transformers who have been secretly hiding on Earth to protect the Transwarp Key, and new human characters too. There's Noah and Elena who tag along with the Autobots to help save the Earth from Unicron. Whenever I make these why you should see X movie videos, it's normally for movies that I think anybody can enjoy, and this movie is not quite that. Like, I think if you've seen a Transformers movie before and have no interest in the franchise, this isn't going to be the movie that gets you on board all of a sudden. And if you haven't seen a Transformers before, I wouldn't even recommend this movie. I would say go watch Bumblebee, a movie that I don't even think is the best movie of this franchise. It's just the one that I think is best suited for general audiences. But if you're someone like me who has enjoyed this franchise throughout its many ups and downs, go out and see this movie because it is extremely entertaining and actually quite surprising. I think the biggest surprise for me was that this movie actually took the time to give character arcs for the Transformers, specifically Optimus Prime. Because in past movies, Optimus Prime has been like this larger than life leader of the Autobots, no sacrifice, no victory. But that is not the Optimus Prime that starts off this movie. In fact, he is quite flawed and has a lot of things that he's dealing with. For one, Optimus Prime kind of battles depression. Like, he blames himself for everything that has happened to the Autobots, like leaving Cybertron and then getting stuck on Earth and then not being able to go back home. And in past movies, whenever there's been that tension between the Autobots and humanity, Optimus Prime has always been the one to look out for everybody, to protect the humans. But in this movie, Optimus Prime couldn't give two shits about us. His only concern is leaving the planet, getting the Autobots home, and whatever happens to Earth is none of his business. But then as the movie progresses and Optimus spends time with Noah and sees how the two kind of share similar traits, and then also spends time with the Maximals, who have a very different relationship with humanity over the course of time, Optimus Prime evolves and changes his ways, and that kind of character evolution is just not something I expected to see in a Transformers movie. So definitely some points for giving a little bit of depth to the Transformers, but let's be honest, you're here to watch this movie to see robots bang on other robots. And Steven Cable Jr., the director of this movie, knew that. So this movie is fast-paced and action-packed. At a runtime of a little over 2 hours, this movie flies by because it is so well-paced with its action scenes. Like, the movie opens up with an action scene, and then you get a little bit of setup, and then another action scene, and then maybe a little bit of an adventure, and then another action scene. There's so many action scenes in this movie, and they always came at the right time. But perhaps the most interesting contribution from Steven Cable Jr. was how he handled the action sequences involving humans. Like, in past movies, when we've seen our human protagonists have to fight Transformers, they're normally played for like comedy. But in this film, those sequences are filmed like a horror movie, which was just so clever and so fresh. And it also just made a ton of sense because if there were killer robots chasing after you, it would be scary as shit. But now feels like a good time to talk about those human characters because, except for Bumblebee, those have been some of the most insufferable moments of the entire franchise. I like Anthony Ramos a lot as an actor. Like, if you haven't seen In the Heights, definitely go check that out. Here, he's fine. They try to give him some depth. Like, his family is struggling to pay bills. He doesn't have a job. His younger brother is sick. But all that stuff didn't really resonate with me and just felt kind of cheesy. I did like the dynamic though between him and Mirage, which is like his version of Bumblebee, the car that he finds that just happens to be a Transformer. And Mirage was cool because he was basically the polar opposite of Optimus Prime, where Optimus has no interest in human beings. Mirage likes rap music and makes pop culture references. But the human character that I really liked was Dominique Fishback. When the Autobots are searching for the MacGuffin that's been hidden on Earth for hundreds of years, Dominique Fishback's character is actually able to contribute because she works at a museum, she knows a lot about ancient artifacts, so she's able to date and place where this thing might be. And the rest of the reasons why you should go out and see this movie are stuff that the Transformers movies have mostly excelled on in past entries. Amazing visual effects, Like, my god, do I love seeing those old school designs for the Transformers. And I think the Maximals translate great on screen. There's great music, and there's even hints of the OG Steve Jablonsky score, which is probably one of my favorites of all time. And there's some epic action sequences. One in particular that I can't give away because it's a spoiler. You'll know if you'll see the movie. It's just straight up one of the coolest moments I've seen in a movie this year. As for negatives that I have for the film, like I mentioned, we have two human characters that tag along on this adventure, and because of that, the movie has to give them something to do, so there'd be these very convenient reasons for why the humans had to do something that the Autobots couldn't just do themselves. And it just got so repetitive. I think it happened like at least 3 times. And lastly, I actually thought the Maximals were surprisingly underused for a movie called Rise of the Beasts. Part of that is because there's a huge chunk in the movie where the Autobots have to find the Maximals. But when we do meet the Maximals, there's still more time spent developing the relationship and even friction between Optimus Prime and Noah. And I would have rather just used that time to see more interactions between Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal. Because there's an interesting setup where Optimus Primal, a being from the future that's named after Optimus Prime, says, like, shortly after meeting him, "This isn't the Prime that I imagined," because Optimus Prime isn't perfect in the movie. And I just wish more of that was explored. But those are my biggest reasons for why you should go out and see Transformers Rise of the Beast. If you happen to see it, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.